Tonight on Life on the Rock, we have Dr. Christine Schintgen from Seed of Wisdom College. We'll see a video about the school and much more. Well, welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight, our guest is Dr. Christine Schintgen. She's the president of Our Lady Seed of Wisdom College up in Barry's Bay, Ontario, just about 4 hours north of Toronto. She's going to tell us about the school. They have a classical liberal arts education there, small school, but a deep, rich Catholic identity.
We're now going to a video from Our Lady Seed of Wisdom College.
Too often, young Catholics go off to university and lose their faith. But what if they could go to college and be formed in their faith? At Our Lady Seed of Wisdom College, students receive a solid education in the classical liberal arts, while also being formed as persons to become leaders for the Church and society. Our Lady Seed of Wisdom College is the only Canadian university or college recommended by the Newman Guide to Choosing a Catholic College, and its tuition is among the most affordable for in-person education in North America. Visit seedofwisdom.ca today.
Dr. Christine Schintgen, welcome to Life on the Rock.
Thank you very much, Father Mark. It's good to be here.
And you're here, president of Our Lady Seed of Wisdom in Barry's Bay, Ontario, right, we'd say. And first, situate it. Where is Barry's Bay?
Barry's Bay is in rural Ontario, so a couple of hours west of Ottawa, or about 4 hours north of Toronto.
Mm-hmm. So it's a small town, and you're on a lake there. That's quite beautiful.
That's right, right. So we're in the rural area. We're in the Madawaska Valley, which is stunningly beautiful. Lakes, hills, beautiful trees that change all different colors in the fall. So each season has its special flavor. It's a very beautiful part of the world.
Yeah. Great canoeing up there. I know I've got friends go up there to the Boundary Waters to canoe, and just you can even drink out of some of the lakes in the middle of the lake. They say you can drink out of. So it's an amazing place. But you all have a small Catholic college. How big is your school there?
We have about 100 students.
And tell us a bit about the history. How did it come about?
Okay, so there were some families in the area. Many of them had come to be near Madonna House, which is about 15 or 20 minutes out of Barry's Bay. And these parents were homeschooling their children, and they got them through elementary school, through secondary school, and then they had to ask themselves, well, where are our children going to go to university? And they wanted some place that wouldn't destroy their faith. So they were looking at some of the colleges and universities in the United States, but they were very expensive for Canadians. And so they just looked at each other and put $5 down on the table and said, okay, we're going to start something. That was back in 1999. And so the college, or the academy as it then was incorporated in August of 1999. It took a year to actually fully get started. There was something else, a study center that happened for a year that was kind of a preparation for Our Lady Seed of Wisdom Academy. The academy itself got going in the year 2000 when the diocese allowed the academy to use a former convent, the former St. Joseph's Convent.
All right. And you've been there since 2003.
Since 2003, yeah.
And it was largely like the mothers that started it, or some of the dads too?
Mothers and fathers, yeah. The wife of the famous author Michael O'Brien, Sheila O'Brien, is still on our board of directors and was one of the founding members. So she's been a constant presence for us, but there were a few others.
And tell us about the degrees that you offer. How does that work?
Yeah, okay. So until 2017, we didn't have a degree. We had certificates. But in 2017, we were given permission by the Government of Ontario to grant a 3-year degree, Bachelor of Catholic Studies, And so since that time, we've been offering that degree. And we're in the final stages of the approval process for a 4-year Bachelor of Arts degree, which we don't have yet, but hopefully soon. Could happen anytime. So we're hoping it will happen soon.
So the opportunities, like for a student with a 3-year degree, they can go to a school in Canada for like a 4th year to get the...
Or in the States. There are places in the States that will accept our students to do a 4th year and then get their 4-year degree. We also have pathways even after 1 or 2 years. If people want to come for a year, 2 years, 3 years, they can go elsewhere to complete their degree.
I was reading about one of your graduates got a doctorate from Divine Mercy?
Divine Mercy is, we have a great partnership with them. They accept our students after the 3-year degree to go right into a master's program. So that's quite a popular option.
Right.
They give us a special discount as well. So that's a very popular option for our students who want to go into psychology. Divine Mercy is a wonderful place to do psychology from a Catholic perspective.
And that's in the DC area.
That's right, yeah.
So, and what kind of education do you offer?
So right now, the Bachelor of Catholic Studies it's a classical liberal arts education, which means that we give a very broad formation. We educate the whole person. In fact, we like to say, along with Cardinal Newman, used to emphasize that formation of the whole person. So you're not just coming to get information in your head about a particular subject. You're getting, first of all, a lot of different subjects which inform each other. So history complements philosophy, complements theology, complements literature. They all kind of work together. They give a picture of how Western culture has come to be where it is in this particular time. It also, classical liberal arts education really emphasizes the skills of the 7 liberal arts, so especially the trivium, grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Every student in their first year takes a logic course. People need to know how to think logically. That's a very underrated skill these days across the board in our society. So that's something. They learn how to communicate, especially to write, but just in general, how to communicate well and effectively. So these are some of the things we offer in our liberal arts program, and it's very valuable. We see our graduates to go on to really use this in whatever walk of life they end up pursuing.
Yeah, so much in work environments, especially like management positions, dealing with people, what a skill that is to be able to communicate, to be able to write it down, to be able to have a mission or focus. You're telling me one of your graduates is a brewmaster, is that the right way to say it?
Right, yeah, she's a brewmaster. She runs her own brewing company, and she, did a liberal arts education with us, and she credits us with preparing her well for us. Of course, we didn't teach her the actual skills of brewing, but although we do have a brewing club, but more importantly, she says she learned how to communicate, how to write well, how to deal with people effectively. So, that helps her to manage her company well and to manage the people who work for her well, so that when she has to deal with customers, she knows how to communicate effectively, get a message across that's going to resonate and speak to people.
Right. You got a guy going to the trade school and learned heating and air conditioning.
Right, you would think totally unrelated, right, to the liberal arts. It's an HVAC company, heating and cooling systems. But he said to me that, especially our course in metaphysics, he said that course, metaphysics, really prepared me well for HVAC industry. I said, what? I said, I'd really like to believe that, but how is that even possible? And he said, well, in metaphysics, I learned what knowledge is, and I learned how to learn. So he says, I went to trade school. The other students were ahead of me because that was their background. That's what they'd been doing already. So, but because I know how to learn, I quickly not only caught up to them, but surpassed them because of my knowledge of how to learn. I understand what it is to learn something and how to go about it. And so he was able to quickly catch up and then excel in the program.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with Dr. Christine Schintgen about Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College. Doctor, let's talk about the Catholic identity. You're right there. You you're using like church facilities somewhat, right? At St. Hedwig's there. And talk about that aspect. What's available to the students?
Our Catholic identity is central. It's the number one thing. We wouldn't really exist if it weren't for our Catholic identity. There are lots of colleges out there. You know, we don't need another sort of wishy-washy Catholic college. We're authentically, faithfully Catholic. You don't.
Newman's Guide, right?
We're in, exactly. You don't just have to take my word for it. Of course, I'm president, I'm going to say that. But the Newman Guide to Choosing a Catholic College, which is put out by the Cardinal Newman Society, we actually are not only in there, we're the only Catholic, the only Canadian college or university in the Newman Guide, but we have their gold seal, which means we check all the boxes. We're really excellent in terms of being faithful to our mission, which is to be a faithfully Catholic education, higher education institution. So what does that mean in practice? Well, one kind of litmus test is that all of our professors take an oath of fidelity in the presence of our bishop every year. So all of our professors, anyone who teaches at Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College, is Catholic, not just in name, but faithfully Catholic, willing to take an oath of fidelity to the magisterium. So that, I think, is a big one. Then you have so many opportunities for spiritual growth at the college. So yes, we're right a stone's throw away from St. Hedwig's. There's daily mass there. There's even daily adoration. Many opportunities for confession, both at the parish and with our chaplain, who is from Mendonca House. And
which is a big thing. I think I met Father Brian Christie. Yeah, and they live an intense spirituality at Mendonca House, so he can bring that. You all have a great history with Mendonca House. And
right, oh yeah, we've been close from the beginning. And Father Brian Christie is a wonderful priest, just a very deep spirituality. He gave a retreat to our faculty and staff recently, just gave us a lot of spiritual nourishment to chew on for the rest of the year. Yeah. But many opportunities for prayer throughout the day. So we do a daily chaplet of Divine Mercy at the grotto at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the weekdays. And in their residences, we can talk about residences a little bit too, but so in their houses, the students will adopt a particular form of prayer as a small community within the broader community. Often it takes the form of, say, for example, Compline in the evening or a decade of the Rosary. So these little things, practices throughout the day to strengthen us and help us grow in our faith.
Right. And it's interesting about the residences you have. So Barry's Bay is a small town. So they live in these houses, right, in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's right.
Could be like 10 students in a house.
About approximately, give or take. But that's actually a very distinctive feature of the life of a student at Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College. So they don't live in big dormitories. They live in a small community within the community, and that teaches them a lot. I talked about whole person formation. That's a big part of the formation that they get because they learn to live with other people. You know, some of them come to us without a lot of experience of having to get along with other people, and it can be bumpy sometimes. But they have the guidance of the leaders in the house, as well as the dean of students, the associate dean of students, and the whole school structure is set up to help them flourish and to learn how to deal with conflict, for example. Our student leadership team gets training in how to deal with conflict. It's really excellent preparation for life.
And as we mentioned in the beginning, the history is it was a school aimed to be affordable, right?
Yes.
Talk about the affordability.
Well, we like to say we're uniquely affordable. The tuition for American students, so we have an international fee and a domestic fee. The international fee, so it would apply to Americans, is $10,000 a year in tuition, and then you have room and board and so forth, which brings it to about 16,000 American dollars a year, which for a total package is really quite good, compared to a lot of other places. And we do offer some financial aid as well.
And I've been up to the school, and I was struck by the simplicity of life. And Catholic education is going to form virtue in the young person, but also in a world that kind of overbloated with doing, consumerism. It was kind of refreshing to see the simplicity. It is simple.
I mean, we're in a small town, so we don't have a huge pool nearby or anything like that. But we make our own fun. We have a lot of good, clean fun. Kayleys, those are Irish dances, swing dances. We put on a play every year. That's a lot of fun. We have musical concerts that we put on. We have to do a lot of things ourselves, but I think that's obviously character forming as well,
Right.
and good for people to,
Yeah.
to learn those skills as well, and also a great way to bond as a community.
Yeah, you have a coffee shop in the area, you got pizza, you got
We have everything.
Polish place, yeah. And I like to, about the professors, I met some of the professors, they were very engaging, great teacher to student ratio. Tell us about that, the
It's
quality.
about a 13 to 1 professor to student ratio. And yeah, I would say honestly, we do have some of the best professors in the world. Just take one example, Dr. Richard Shaw is a world-class Bede scholar. He's published 3 books. And
That's the Venerable Bede.
the Venerable Bede, the very same one. Yeah, and you know, he teaches all of our first years as well as the upper years, and so they all get to experience Dr. Shaw.
Yeah, yeah. And being a classic liberal arts program, you used a phrase that struck me. Is like, so we talk about virtue and theology and everything, but the classic literature puts flesh on the virtues of flesh on these concepts.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Well, you can get me talking about literature all day. I'm a literature professor at heart. But that's right. So in a liberal arts education, you're not just going to get, you know, theology in an intellectual way. I mean, we do teach the teachings of the church and so forth. But what does that look like in the here and now, or what does that look like lived out? So we're very incarnational in our approach, both in terms of how we live as a community, but also even in the learning that we're doing. We have the fine arts, we have music. We're even offering an egg dyeing class, a Sankey class this year. But getting back to literature, so what does it look like to be virtuous? That can teach people often in some ways more effectively or more profoundly, or in a way that speaks to some people better than kind of the abstract theological things. So you read a book like Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, and you see Jean Valjean, you know, carrying the injured Marius through the sewers of Paris with great difficulty. And this is an icon of what it looks like to love.
Right.
That's just one example, but you know, there examples proliferate throughout literature, and it helps to speak to people who might otherwise not be reached. You need to touch their imaginations just as much as you have to touch their intellect.
Right. Well, Dr. Schintgen, it goes fast, but thank you so much for joining us on Life on the Rock.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Father Mark.
Well, Brother John, I really enjoyed my visit up there to see the school and the community up there, and went up there for different events when I was up in Canada at the Madonna House, and they have a great partnership with Madonna House, and their priest chaplains come from there. But just a wonderful testament of faith, families coming together, wanting to educate their children, give them a college education. It's a boldness to it.
It is, and I think there's a hunger out there for that truth, and I love how their motto is, you know, the truth will set you free. And again, you mentioned it on the show, it's just, there's kind of a breakdown in that area. People are just kind of driven in all sorts of directions. But I think I like the fact that they really do put that emphasis on logic, you know, because you can go now 16 years through schooling and never even have a course in that. It's pretty easy, but you would think that would actually be something taught. And then it should be encouraged. And so it's glad, I'm always happy to see that. But I think there's something to be said about Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College making the Newman list, because it's a big achievement. I think in the United States, there's about 250 Catholic schools, but only 20 of them really make that cut. And
the Newman's Guide.
The Newman's Guide. So that's a big achievement. And the fact that maybe in Canada, they're the only one, it's like, you know, I think maybe more attention should be given to this school. So
Right. And I'm always fascinated with these schools that have that curriculum that to study liberal arts, you know, classic literature, you know, the Greeks, the medievals, and what you can learn from them. They tackle like the weighty issues of life, the meaning of life, the purpose of life, what's a good life, what virtue is. Man, to plant those seeds in a young person, it really sets you on the right trajectory.
It does. And I think too, to add to that, you know, school is not just about head knowledge, but there's a human formation, you know, living together in a community, you know, maybe working out those conflicts and everything. That's very important. And just building up those communication skills that are important. But I think, again, those are things that set you on the path long term. And I love the fact that she mentions, you know, it's not just what are our goals in this life, but what are our goals in the afterlife
that
are even more important?
I think about this all the time. It's like you see in America, our Western culture, like a growing lack of virtue. And is democracy sustainable without virtue? I mean, how does that bless our work life, our family life, if we've cultivated Christian virtues, natural virtues that the Greeks even taught us? To live a virtuous life is one of strength. And in America, it makes us more successful. Show up, give honest day's work, and responsibility, care for others. That's a powerful thing. So, but this is our first two-part show. This has been the first part. Next week, we'll show you the second part. We'll send you into the vineyard with a blessing. May our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you, give you His peace. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week on Life on the Rock. Tonight on Life on the Rock, we have Dr. Christine Schintgen from Seed of Wisdom College. We'll interview a former student and much more. Welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight, our guest is Dr. Christine Schintgen and Joseph Mendonca. Joseph is a seminarian student, a graduate of Our Lady Seed of Wisdom College, and Dr. Christine Schintgen is the president of that college. So this is the second part of a show that we're doing on Seed of Wisdom. They're going to share more about the college and the purpose of the school and the education they offer.
And we're now going to a reflection with Christine Schintgen.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christine Schintgen. I'm the president of Our Lady Seed of Wisdom College in Barry's Bay, Ontario, Canada. Our Lady Seed of Wisdom was founded in the year 2000 as a place where students can come and get a university-level education without losing their faith, and hopefully, and in most cases, deepening their faith. We offer an excellent liberal arts education with top-notch instructors, professors in theology, philosophy, literature, history, and other subjects of the liberal arts, such as music, science, mathematics. And the exceptional thing about the academic program that we offer is that all of the courses are integrated, so that what you learn in history is connecting with what you learn in philosophy and literature. Students find that they come out of our education with a well-rounded formation in the liberal arts from the Catholic perspective. So everything is viewed from the perspective of the Catholic faith. As well as an excellent academic formation, we also offer the education of the whole person in a very close-knit community. Students live not in big dorms, but in houses, communities of about normally 8 to 12 students. They form close friendships that really last for the rest of their lives. And they form friendships with people who share many of their interests as well, whether it be swing dancing or playing hockey or snowshoeing in the winter. There are many, many things to enjoy, especially in the beautiful surroundings of the Madawaska Valley, in which Barry's Bay is situated. This closeness community also impacts the relationship that students have with their professors. Professors know the students by name, and they really care about them. They make sure that the students are following, keeping up with their readings, and just generally doing well. Finally, this education is a great education to prepare students for anything in life. We have students, alumni, who go on to work in healthcare, in teaching. Some of them go on to have their own businesses. It's just a wonderful preparation for anything because it teaches you how to think critically, how to communicate, and to be really grounded in the faith and be able to evangelize and spread that faith to other people.
Well, welcome to Life on the Rock, Dr. Christine Schintgen and Joseph Mendonca. And Joseph, we added you to our lineup here because you're a graduate of the college and you're in formation for the priesthood now. So I wanted to hear some of your story. First, let's talk about vocations, though, in general from the college. You've had a number get married. How many is that?
So we have about 70 plus marriages. I think it's 72 marriages of alumni to alumni. So that's 140 plus alumni married to each other.
Right.
a lot of marriages.
Right.
Can't even count the number of kids out of, out of those marriages.
So it's our second show. We've talked a lot about, the powerful points about a classical liberal arts education, but the Catholic part, helping a young person discern their vocation, is huge. And especially like today, I see it all the time. Young people want to get married, they can't find anybody. To facilitate that, to help someone find their vocation, that's a great work to do. And but you've had a number go to religious life, priesthood.
Yeah, in the 23 years that we've been in existence, we have an equal number of vocations that have come out of the college. So about 23. We have 9 alumni priests, and many in religious life, female and male. So we've been getting some attention for that recently. In terms of being what they call a breeding ground for vocations.
And maybe the study of classical literature too gets you thinking about these big picture questions, right? What's the meaning, purpose of life, the goal of life?
Absolutely, yeah.
You were telling me on the previous show, I think off camera, but just Dante's description of the beatific vision was so powerful for you.
I mean, I think it is powerful for anyone who reads it. I think we talk a lot these days about goals, right? What are your goals? And what are your life goals? And I think sometimes we don't go far enough with that. Like, what about your afterlife goals? Where do you want to be ultimately?
This world's passing, right?
It's not for eternity, but so Dante gives us that picture. I think he gives us our ultimate goal, which is the beatific vision. And he gives us such a powerful image of that at the end of the Divine Comedy that I think it should speak to everybody and should be our guiding light in life.
Okay, Joseph, where are you from in Canada?
Cambridge, Ontario. It's about a town about an hour's drive west of Toronto.
And what drew you to the college?
Well, I grew up in a devout, practicing Catholic family. So growing up, I was kind of always was familiar with the fundamentals of the faith, what we believe, how we live, the sacramental life of the church, and prayer. And eventually, it was a suggestion from my brother. Why don't you go to Our Lady's Seat of Wisdom? And after giving him some thought, I thought, well, why not? I'll go for 1 year. And then 1 year became 2 years, and 2 years became 3 years quite quickly.
And you've come from a devout home. Your parents are from Goa, India, is that right? Or
originally.
Originally, yeah. But you grew up in a devout home.
That's right.
So they were very much encouraging you to go to wisdom and to even think about the priesthood ultimately.
Yeah, completely supportive. Everything.
So what happened? You're at the college. What did you really like about it, and what maybe drew you to discern this call to the priesthood?
Well, I think at the beginning you're really just immersed into this vibrant Catholic culture, from the academics, from the community life, from the more spiritual side of things. So I mean, in the academics, you are able, from a philosophical, theological, historical, a literature point of view, to discover God, discover the human person, discover the church and all of her goodness, and it helps you. It helps you to realize that being Catholic, it gives you a capacity to live in accordance with the way God has designed the world, and that there's a tremendous freedom that comes with that. And it's quite fitting that the motto of the college is "Veritas vos liberabit," the truth will set you free, from John's Gospel. And then on the social side of things, you're living in community, in houses, and no matter what you've done before coming to Seat of Wisdom, whether you were homeschooled, whether you went to a public school as I did, or maybe a private school, you come there and you recognize that all the people who are around you, you share this common view of how to view the world, and the same beliefs, and you get a sense of, I really do belong here. And all the social activities, even the same social activities that you do outside the college, they take on even somewhat of a different light in the college.
Right. You enjoy things more, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I noticed that when I was in seminary, I loved classical music. I love Rachmaninoff, and this Russian pianist was coming to Philadelphia where the school was at, and I went to see that. But I remember how much more when you go farther in your relationship with the Lord, everything becomes brighter, more vibrant, more meaningful. And
Yeah.
I like that your emphasis on goodness too, because that was like my sense visiting the college. 50% are homeschooled, but so I think that's a nice kind of mixture. But there's just a spirit of goodness there. There's a dress code, or people they have to dress in a dignified way, and that does so much. And I was impressed by that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And for you personally, like you mentioned to me, going to Mass frequently, daily Mass is available, but what impact on you did that have in drawing you to the priesthood?
Well, generally, I think the college has a very central emphasis on the Eucharist. And whether that be our weekly college Mass, the opportunity to go into the local parish church right beside the college, where the Blessed Sacrament is exposed. Even our student leadership meetings, they'd always begin with us singing Ave Verum Corpus, because the Dean of Students always said the Eucharist is what centers us. So I think that the Eucharistic culture in itself was something that had an impact on me. And in a particular way, serving Mass at the college and in the local church, I always thought that you finished altar serving when you were 18 or so, but no, I was invited once to come serve Mass, and particularly to be the MC at Mass and stand right beside the priest as he's offering the Mass, and to be so close to the Eucharist, to the priest as he's offering the Mass. It fills you with a sense of awe and a beauty that it's very hard to even describe. And on another level, being on their student leadership team at Seed of Wisdom, it gave me an opportunity to serve those around me. And overall, I think the experience of Seed of Wisdom, it gave me the opportunities necessary to recognize the charisms and calling and talents that God has given me. And that has been very helpful in discerning my vocation, to recognize who God is, who I am, and what He's placed in my life, so I can go forward and make a decision of how best to serve.
Right, and just being in a place that fosters God as number one, and we're called to serve Him. He alone we shall serve and worship. But we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a minute. Well, Joseph, we were talking about your story. You got the 3-year degree from Seed of Wisdom, and then you completed college. Where was that at?
Yeah, it was at Redeemer University in a city called Ancaster, Ontario, a part of Hamilton, Ontario. And I completed 10 courses there and got my 4-year degree.
And you already had the philosophy credits, so you can go start right into 4 years of theology. Now you're in what they call a propedeutic year in Spain. So tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I just finished the propedeutic year, and it's essentially a foundation year where kind of a seminarian has a chance to have a slightly less academic sort of year, but really a year to ponder, to reflect, and to pray.
Get good spiritual habits of prayer and things.
And you really do all the normal things a seminary does. Liturgy, classes, prayer, but without the harsh academics attached to it sometimes, which can make things a little stressful.
Now, she doesn't seem harsh. Do you think? But you're not cranking out Cicero reflections and stuff. But,
we still write small papers, but without the grades attached to them. So it was really just a year to kind of contemplate, to reflect, to build upon what was received at Seed of Wisdom. And of course you're in Spain, so you get to experience the Catholicism of
the rich
Spanish
history.
culture.
And Dr. Schintgen, what do you hope he would take away from Seed of Wisdom into his preparation for the priesthood?
I would hope that he would take away a depth of familiarity with the Catholic teaching, the perennial teachings of the Catholic Church. So I know that in Christian doctrine, for example, we learn what the Church teaches, but we go deeper than we might otherwise have the opportunity to do. The students are constantly invited to ask questions, to sort of say, well, why? Why does the Church teach this? Or what about this? What about this situation? Or what about this thought? And so I would hope that that would stand him in good stead, hopefully as a future priest, when he gets asked those same questions by his parishioners. So when he teaches his homilies, or gives his homilies, he can anticipate what would some of the misgivings be that parishioners would have. So that would be one big thing, is just a kind of in-depth knowledge of what the Church teaches. I think from a personal formation point of view, I'm very confident that he has grown and matured a lot in his years at Seed of Wisdom and beyond, but especially at Seed of Wisdom in terms of that experience of student leadership and life in a household. He was an RA, he was a residence assistant, so he had to deal with people, whatever, breaking curfew. What do you do? And so he's had to deal with some tough situations. We give students who are on the leadership team formation and training in, for example, conflict resolution. I think that's a great skill to get early on in life, because whatever you do in life, you're going to be dealing with conflict. Certainly in married life, that'll be the case as well. But for Joseph and seminary and looking ahead to the priesthood, I think that would be a big piece as well, as just having had that life experience of living in a Christian community and having to get along with other people and having to be a leader as well. It's not easy these days to be a leader. I think he's had a good taste of how to do that in a Christian, charitable, but also firm way.
Right. And you will also, a part of the program is contemporary literature that might help them relate to the modern world.
So exactly, that's true. That's a very good point. The St. Thomas is foundational program, and so are Aristotle and Plato. But it's not enough to study those great works. It's also important to be familiar with what are the topics that people are talking about today. What are some of the things people are reading? So yes, we have, for example, a survey of literature sequence, a two-part sequence. After classical literature, they do survey of literature 1 and 2, and they'll study Shakespeare and so forth. But they'll also study some more recent authors, so that they can be familiar with contemporary literature. And we have some upper level courses in, for example, Canadian literature, so people know what's going on and are able to talk and dialogue with people today, whether it be their friends or coworkers, parents, colleagues. It's important to be able to engage with. Sometimes to critique when necessary, but to engage with contemporary culture. And we do form people in that area as well.
And I think too, what I've noticed, like in the priesthood, seem like priests that have had an interest or studies in literature, they're just better communicators, they're better rhetoric and preaching and stuff. But what diocese are you studying for now?
I'm studying for the Diocese of Hamilton.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you grew up in the diocese?
Yeah, in the diocese, yeah. And the diocese is the diocese just beside the Archdiocese of Toronto, and we're the second biggest English-speaking diocese in Canada.
Right. Now you've kind of made the decision just after your graduation from Seed of Wisdom, right?
Yeah.
And when you talk to your classmates about it, they're real encouraging and could see that in you, or?
Encouraging, absolutely. Maybe for some of them it was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
But no, everyone's been very encouraging and supportive, and yeah, it's in some sense even just made some of my relationships closer with the other alumni. Now that we're kind of focusing on a certain, whether state of life or they're going to certain occupations. We're all just kind of getting a little more settled down to some degree, and those relationships, even though they started at Seed of Wisdom, and we live together, and now we're far apart, they're still growing, they're still still developing, still living.
Right.
So.
And I think at Seed of Wisdom too, I was just impressed with the dress code, and it was just a nice interaction you could see among the students. I would think that would help in our twisted culture, oftentimes, the relationship between men and women and things, just that kind of formation about recognizing the dignity of the other to interact in an appropriate way. I was impressed by all of that.
Well, I mean, I think from the beginning in our intellectual formation, we're not just imparting theology, but also sort of more broadly philosophy, where we ask the questions, what does it mean to be human?
Right.
And I think that's an important question these days, in the sense that our society often gets it really wrong. I mean, we have lots of challenges to the whole concept of being an integrated human person now with artificial intelligence and so forth. Not that I'm against all of AI, but it has to be kept within certain parameters, and we have to be confident in our knowledge of who we are created to be, how God designed us as human beings in His own image and likeness.
Right.
So a formation in that helps us then to relate to one another as a child of God, and knowing the dignity both of myself and the person that I'm interacting with. And so they get that in their studies, and then it also is complemented with the experience in the classroom, but also in the households, in the community events, and social interactions, and so forth.
Right,
So it's all of a piece. It's all an integrated formation that they get in human interactions.
Right. Well, you all have a beautiful place up there, and thank you for coming to share your faith and the good works up there.
Thank you very much, Father.
I really enjoyed my conversation with Dr. Schintgen and Joseph. And that classical liberal arts education, the literature, putting flesh on the virtue, something concrete, witnesses that we can have, and from these great works of literature that we can understand what forgiveness is. We can understand what heroic virtue is, and what the journey of life challenges therein. So that's a great start to life.
Yeah, I think going back into literature, there's so much to discover, especially if you're not actually growing up with that type of reading. So, and again, I think there's so many connections to our Catholic faith whenever we do receive literature in a school, whether that be a truth or a moral teaching or just a human experience that we often encounter. So I think those are so important to just kind of cultivate that sense of reading to further that, because that's going to stay with you for your life.
They highlighted the number of vocations to the priesthood that came out of the school, and a number of marriages come out of the school. Those are just great things. To
About
help
70 marriages. I thought that was pretty amazing.
That'd be a big draw for all the young people to go there.
9 priests, so, and a lot of religious, you said. So.
Yeah, and I was touched being there a number of occasions when I spent a month up in Canada. I went over to the school there, and just a simple good life there. A great community of students. You can just tell there's like an ease amongst the students. There's friendship and things like that. It just seemed like a very healthy environment to be at, to study.
I think that's so true, because I like what Joseph said, because he said, the school reflects a Eucharistic culture. I thought that was really important, because if you look at a big school today, you can be surrounded by a lot of people and just not know a soul.
Right.
But I think there is something about a human connection with small schools, that there is something more of maybe a tight-knit bond there, that you can relate, you can help out. There's so much benefit to that type of learning.
Right.
So.
And I talked to a number of the teachers, not all of them, but a number of them. They're raising their own families. They're modeling the Christian faith. For a student, you look up to your teachers. You're impressed by them and their abilities, their academics, and you want to know more about them. And you see the witness of their life and living their Christian faith. That has a big influence as a student. So there's so many great qualities. I think up there, the beauty of the area and the history of Canada does have a history of Catholicism and things that's in that culture. That's
a very rich culture, a very rich history.
So we'll send you into that vineyard with a blessing. May our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace. May He fill you with wisdom and counsel to guide you in life. May God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week on Life on the Rock.